we're going to talk now with my guest, Wade Buchanan, first Wade I've ever had on my show, from the Bell Policy Center. Wade, tell the audience out there what Bell Policy Center, what it is, what it does, how it came to be, and your background.
You bet, you bet. Well, it's the first Wade that's interviewed me too.
That's great.
The Bell Policy Center is a nonprofit think tank and advocacy group. We try to provide solutions, well-researched, well-thought-through solutions to some of Colorado's most troubling problems. We try to do so from a basis of progressive values. We think that Colorado ought to be a state of opportunity for everyone who's here, regardless of their background, and the job of the public sector, state government, and all of us as citizens is to do what we can to remove the barriers that prevent people from achieving the American dream, participating in our economy to the best of their ability, and having fulfilling lives. It has a lot to do with your earlier rant about the role of labor. And, and while we could debate some of the discussion you had about the role of free trade, I certainly concur with everything you said about the role of labor in creating the many of the things that we take for granted now in this country. We've been around for about 6 years. We focus on the state of Colorado, and we look at issues from the point of view of the end user, if you will, the citizen of Colorado. What does it take to make someone or to give someone the opportunities they need to participate fully? And we've identified a number of gateways that we think people need to pass through. They're healthy birth, safe and stimulating early childhood.
Like early head start?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, we don't necessarily, the first question is this happening in people's lives? Are they being born healthy? Are they having the kind of childhood that they ought to have to be stimulated and to become, to be healthy through life, and to be able to go to, show up at kindergarten and first grade ready to learn? Are they gaining literacy? Why are they, who's not having that happen in their lives, and why not? And then what are the public policy solutions, if any, for that? And so then it's at the end of that line of questioning that you come up with, well, for instance, to follow the logic of that particular area I was talking about, early childhood interventions are very important. Quality preschool is very important. Head Start is a wonderful example of a program that helps kids that come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds perhaps catch up with their peers and be more prepared to participate and succeed in school. We have a program in Colorado called the Colorado Preschool Program, which has been underfunded. We have a waiting list of students to get into it. So obviously one solution would be, let's do a better job of making sure that program's available to a kid who needs it. So it's those sorts of things. We've done a lot of work on the achievement gap in the schools between students of white and Asian and middle and upper middle class kids and their lower income and African American and Hispanic counterparts. So there's a well documented and very persistent gap in performance on average, not every kid obviously, but on average between these two populations. Why does that happen? What can we do about it so that the gap that exists in our schools doesn't turn into an opportunity gap later in life? We care about graduation rates, we care about who's getting into college, whether they can afford to get there. What are we doing to make sure that kids who could be good engineers or could be good doctors or could contribute tremendously through their lives to the quality of life we all enjoy in this state and this country, if the reason they're not able to do that is simply because they couldn't afford to go to college, it's a horrible tragedy for all of us. We try to look at what we can do about making sure kids who want to go to college can go to college, the kinds of jobs people are able to get, what kind of benefits they have, all the way up through retirement security. So, and then we've done, as you mentioned, an awful lot of work on, or as you mentioned, I guess you mentioned during the break, on the fiscal condition of the state. The reason we do that is that Colorado is very unique in terms of having one of the very lowest tax rates, whether you're looking at...
Unique is an interesting word.
Well, yes, we have the most restrictive tax and spending limitation in the country through Tabor.
Mhm.
We believe that in order to achieve or address many of the issues that we were just talking about, you need to have an effective public sector partner. And government doesn't belong everywhere, and there's certain places where I certainly, and all of us, don't want government to be at all.
I would say that, you know, if a guy is driving up on an ambulance to rescue me from a car accident or something, I'm hoping that he's gotten paid well and trained and has good equipment, and this is actually funding of these kind of things actually is directly impacted by Tabor.
You bet.
So
And you
government does belong in some places. I want my firemen to have government oversight, and I want my police and my teachers to meet a certain standard. You know,
Right.
The unique thing about Colorado is we have probably one of the most beautiful states in the country. Plenty of tourism, lots of intelligent people in this state, and we rank right down there with like Mississippi and Alabama and what you might think of as least progressive states in funding for Medicaid programs. We're like in the low 40s or mid to upper 40s in a lot of funding ranges.
We're near the bottom in many of these areas, and of course, we do have a well-educated workforce. A lot of that has to do with people like you moving into Colorado,
Right.
you know, bringing with them the educational benefits they had from other states. We do a very poor job, really, with our own kids.
Mhm.
And you mentioned the beauty of the state. I think, you know, it's kind of the Paris Hilton factor. You know, you can only get so far on looks, and at some point we have to invest in this
Infrastructure.
state, in infrastructure, and the systems that make for a strong economy and allow people to have opportunities. And there's really, you know, some very specific areas that the state spends most of its money. It's K-12 education, it's higher ed, it's highways, it's health care for low-income kids and elderly folks, it's prisons, and in some human services. I may have missed one in there, but that's basically it. 90% of your tax dollars go to those 4, 5, or 6 things. And we are near the bottom of every state in that. Now, the opponents or the critics of that line of argument say, well, obviously, if you're paying less, maybe you're getting a greater value, and that's a good point. We need to make the case for how you could do a better job, and it isn't just spend more money. But the problem is that the opposition, the folks like Mike Rosen, whom you mentioned earlier, and a number of his friends, say that whatever we do, we never have to spend more money. And if you start with that sort of attitude, then I think you're doomed to leaving Colorado or making Colorado a mediocre place.